Welcome back to my statistics tutorials using Excel. In this video, we're going to take a look at the 5-number summary, which are specific measurements for location. And then we're also going to talk about quantiles and percentiles. They're all kind of interrelated, so they're all going to be kind of lumped together. So first of all, when we talk about the 5-number summary, that's a specific list of summary values: our minimum value, our first quartile, our median, our third quartile, and our maximum value. And just so you're aware, the minimum value can also be referred to as the 0th quartile, the median is the 2nd quartile, and the maximum is the 4th quartile. And then there's this other term called percentiles. So the first quartile is the 25th percentile, the second quartile is the 50th percentile, and the third quartile is the 75th percentile. Really, the difference between a quartile and a percentile is quartiles are divisions of quarters or fours or 25%, and percentiles are divisions of 100. So sometimes those terms are used synonymous with each other. The other thing is, when we talk about quartiles, they're also referred to as quantiles, depending on the software or the textbook that you're using, and those are also synonymous with each other. So when we talk about the first quartile or the 25th percentile, those are the same thing. Sometimes the way that we go about calculating those is a little bit different. So we're going to start off by focusing on calculating the first quartile of a data set, and we're going to use some formulas in Excel in order to do that. So across to your menu area, we're going to go over to the formulas area, and then under auto sum you want to click on the down arrow, and then we'll choose more functions. Once we're in here where it says or select a category, in that pull down you want to make sure you're in the statistical area so it has all the statistical functions available, and those are arranged in order. And we're going to start off talking about quartiles, specifically the first quartile. So you're going to scroll through the list until you find the quartile function. And you can see once you get to the Q's, you're going to see that there's the quartile.exe, which stands for exclusive quartile. And then there's the quartile INC, which means inclusive, and I'll talk about the difference between those. We're going to first start off with the quartile exclusive function. So go ahead and select that and say OK. It's going to bring up the dialog box for this, and the array is the range of values that your data can be found in. So we'll click the up arrow next to that, and then we're going to highlight cells A2 all the way down to A14. And then hit enter, and that'll bring you back to the dialog box. It'll show you the values that you selected. There'll also be a green box around the outside of it, so always pay attention to that. And then down below we have to specify the quantile or quartile that we want. So the 0 quartile is the minimum value. The first quartile is also the 25th percentile, and that's the one we want to focus on, so we're going to choose option number 1 for that. And then we'll click OK. And you'll see that that's going to generate the value of 10.85. I want to take a minute and talk about this exclusive quartile. If we were calculating the quartiles by going through and inspecting the data, what we'd do is we'd take this data set right here, and we'd find the median value first. Remember, the median value is the middle value of the data set when it's arranged in order. So we have 13 data points right here. That means there's 6 on the left side of the median and 6 on the right side of the median, and the data is already arranged in order. So if you look at this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, this value of 12.4 that the green box around is my median value right there. So what the exclusive quartile function does in Excel is it says I'm going to exclude this value right here, and I'm going to look at all the values smaller than that to determine where my first quartile is. So if you look through this, we have 6 values right here, and we're actually going to find the median of these 6 values, and you can see that happens between 10.6 and 11.1. And if you were to average those two together, that gives you the value of 10.85. It's the value exactly in the middle of those. By the way, if you look at the bottom of Excel, in the very bottom part of the screen, down here it'll say the average is 10.85 of those two values right there. It says we have 2 values, and the sum of those 2 values is 21.7. So we can do some real quick double checks without having to run a function or anything like that. Now let's take a look at the quartile function where it's inclusive. So I'm just going to go into the cell next to it. Maybe I should label this above it. All right, so now we're going to go back and we're going to take a look at the function where we're doing the first quartile as the inclusive value. So again, we're going to be in the formulas area. We'll go down to the arrow below auto sum, and we'll choose more functions down below. Again, we'll scroll through the list until we find the quartile functions. And this time I'm going to choose the quartile inclusive. So go ahead and select that, click OK. That opens up the dialog box for the quartile functions. We have to give it the array of data first, or the range of values for the data set, which is going to be cell A2 to A14. Hit enter to bring back your dialog box. And then for the quartile that we want the first quartile for this, the 25th percentile. And we're going to say OK once we do that. And you're going to see that returns the value of 11.1. So what this does, going back to that idea of the median, we said before the median of the data set is the 7th data point. So it's this value of 12.4 in the data set when it's arranged in order. And the inclusive quartile includes that value. And it looks at all these values right here, and it says, okay, we're going to find the median of all these values that I currently have highlighted, and that's going to be this value of 11.1. That's the middle of those values right there. So it includes the median value, and it finds that quartile based on that. Now, whenever we do this in class, we're going to use the exclusive quartiles for finding the first quartile, the minimum, the median, the third quartile, and the fourth quartile for doing those, okay? So you get the general idea, and you should be able to calculate the minimum value, the median value, the third quartile, and the fourth quartile using that. Now, I want to talk about percentiles for just a minute. And we'll keep the same theme that we have above where we're talking about exclusive versus inclusive. And let's say I want to find the 5th percentile. Well, the 5th percentile we can't exactly do by inspection the same way that I did before with the quartiles. It is still a specific location in the data set, but we run into a little bit of a problem with this, okay? So let's start off with the exclusive percentile this time. So again, we'll go to formulas, we'll go down to the auto sum, and then we'll go to more functions. And I'm going to scroll down to the percentiles, and we're going to look at the percentile exclusive right here. And we'll say okay. Again, we're going to choose that same array of data, cells A2 to A14. And then in here, you're going to see that it says returns the kth percentile of values in a range where k is in the range of 0 to 1. So we want the 5th percentile. We're going to have to tell it that we want actually 0.05 for that. Remember, 0.05 is the 5th percentile, but it's expressed as a decimal. So 0.05 is the value I'm going to type in right there. And then I'll say OK, and we get this issue right here. All right, and it just happens to be that the way that the percentile is calculated using the exclusive percentile function. Let's take a look at the inclusive one. Okay, so same deal as before. We're going to go to the formulas, we're going to go to the auto sum and go to the pull down arrow, and then we'll go to more functions. And we'll go down to the percentile for this. And this time we're going to choose the percentile inclusive. Same process as before. It's going to ask us to select the array of data. And we're going to do the 5th percentile, which is 0.05. And then we'll say OK. And this is going to calculate the 5th percentile. So what this one does is it looks at all of the data values and uses probably the range in order to calculate that value. I won't get into the details of how we're calculating those, but this one runs into a problem because we can't exactly exclude values and get to that 5th percentile, which would be somewhere between 8.9 and 9.9, very much closer to 8.9. Now, the other thing that I want to go back to is we can use those same percentile functions up here when we calculate the quartiles. In doing this, we would just use the percentile exclusive in this case, and it's going to generate this value of 10.85. So with the quartiles, it works fine, but with the percentiles, we're going to want to make sure that we use the inclusive percentile whenever we're doing that, so we don't run into this issue right there. So hopefully that gives you enough information to kind of get started in calculating quantiles and percentiles. Just remember, if we're doing the 5-number summary, the minimum, the first quartile, the median, the third quartile, and the maximum value, we want to use the exclusive quartile function. All right. And if we're doing percentiles, we want to use the inclusive percentile function in order to generate those. So hopefully this helps you with your homework and also with the content that we're covering in class. And if you do have any questions, just let me know.